Have you ever known those people that are in toxic relationships and finally they get out of that relationship only to go into almost the same exact relationship just with someone different? Or maybe you've noticed those times where you get out of that terrible job, you go to the next job and they treat you just the same. Well, there might actually be a reason for that. Stick around, we're going to get all in depth. You see, most of our life is not conscious. We're not aware of what we're doing. It's almost as though it's mechanical life. It's an automatic autopilot programming within us. And so if we don't reprogram it, it'll take us the same route every single time. Because our minds don't necessarily go for what's truly best for us. It goes for what's familiar, what's comfortable, even if the comfort might be discomfort. Whatever's familiar to you is what your mind's going to go to first. And did you know that if you don't learn from your past experiences, your mind will put you in those situations again and again and again? When you find yourself cycling through the same autopilot life, it's like finding yourself ruminating, cycling through those same negative emotions, memories, feelings, and thoughts from your life. Anything that brought damage to you just constantly pops up to your head. You don't want it to happen, and yet that's what comes to your mind first. I've had that experience before, many of times in the past. Those negative emotions, those negative memories, those unpleasant thoughts pop in your head over and over and over again. I didn't know how to stop it. And it's because I didn't realize that my mind was looking for the learning experience. Because if you don't learn from these experiences, of course you're doomed to repeat it. Your mind will put you in the same cycles over and over again until you learn what you need to learn from that experience. And so you get into the same relationship, the same job, the same situation, no matter where you go, because you're trying to do better next time. But if you never learned from the past one, how can you do better the next one? Now, is that to say that the bad things that happen to you are your fault? Of course not. You can't control the external world. You don't have control over it. You can't control if someone treats you badly. But you do have control now to alter your perception, to alter your viewpoint, your frame of reference within the world, and to know that it's time to learn, that it's time to break these patterns. You can't control if someone else treats you badly, and yet you can control what you tolerate in this life. Understanding that you've learned from this point forward what you truly want and what you simply won't tolerate from others, and learning from that experience. Now knowing what there is to look out for, and now knowing what you truly want, so you can walk away from the things that no longer serve you. And so what about with rumination? What about with these negative thought cycles that keep popping up? Well, one pops up, you latch onto it because it's a potential threat, it's bad things from your past, and once you think about that, it causes cortisol to rise, adrenaline to rise, your heart to beat faster, you get more anxious, and when that happens, your mind goes, oh, they're anxious, what could it be? And you start thinking about more and more bad things. Now, how do you deal with that? How do you fix that? Well, for something like that, all you have to do is sever that negative feedback loop. Like when you have two phones next to each other and they pick up the feedback on each other, it gets louder and louder and more obnoxious and more unnerving. You can just click hang up or mute on one of the phones and it severs that feedback loop. Just like that, you can sever that feedback loop of these negative thoughts, negative emotions, negative thoughts, negative emotions, and sever it. Now, how do you do that? Well, it can actually be quite simple. It can actually be quite silly. Because all these are memories, thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And all those are within you, which means you have control of all of them. And so the next time you notice you're having these negative cycles, take back that control. Realize that it's just a thought, a feeling, a memory, and take back the control by changing that thought, feeling, or memory. Knowing that you're simply trying to manipulate it, but add another character to that memory. Change their voice. Change the picture of it. If you can see it vividly, change it to black and white and blurry. Add a soundtrack. This is simply just your memory. And so you have control over it. And you'll see that It's actually so simple. When you take that control, you start to sever that negative emotion attached to it. I mean, it's silly and yet it works, because the easiest, simplest things often go overlooked. And when you do this, you'll notice how powerful it is. And what if it's more than just a negative thought, a negative emotion? What if you're living that autopilot programming, where you're going into the same situations over and over again? Well, you can ask yourself, when was the first time I felt this way? Who was with me? Where was I? What was I doing? It'll take you back to that initial sensitizing event, the first time you felt that way, that started this whole cycle. Once you really process that, ask yourself, what do I have control of from that experience now? What can I control from that? Well, what did you learn from it? What can you learn from that? That's a good indication of what you have control of. And you can also learn from it in terms of what you will tolerate from this point forward. Because we're all just doing the best we can with the information we have in that moment. And now that you've gone through that experience, you have a lot more information to go off of. And so you can use that as a learning experience alone. Well, I didn't appreciate that, I didn't like that, I didn't enjoy that. What was it that I didn't enjoy about that? So I know not to get in that situation again. How can I use that situation to my advantage? How can I grow and strengthen from that situation? Those two things. What can I avoid from this point forward with that situation? And what can I use from that situation to make me stronger? Those two things will help you sever that negative feedback loop. It's all just a learning experience. And so if you feel like you're having the same thoughts day after day, you're going through the same cycle, the same motions, the same relationships, the same jobs, everything's just the same, if it feels like Groundhog's Day, well, it might be. And yet you have control over it. Understand that the mind is just looking for familiarity. And once you learn that, you'll notice why you're going through the same cycles. Figure out when was the first time that you went through this cycle, and extract all the learning experiences you can from it. And these are the fastest, simplest, easiest ways to break out of that autopilot programming and to carve a new destination for your future. You don't have to live through these cycles. You can simply break free. And I'm curious, what was a cycle you've gone through? Was there a relationship or a job that just was the same no matter any time you tried to change it? Was there a negative thought cycle that you just couldn't get out of your mind? What have you gone through and how have you broken free from these cycles? If you don't feel like sharing that much, then comment anything. Comment your favorite letter. Comment your favorite number. Comment your favorite emoji. Comment anything at all, because it helps these videos. The more engagement they get, the better they'll do. The better they'll do, the more I can give. And so, if you could help me help you by simply commenting anything at all, and we can take back from the YouTube overlords and fix the algorithm to bring content serving you. Thank you.